November on Thanksgiving Day. So if there's a week for him to get back on track, this should be it. And two more, Danny Gore at nickelback and safety Don Carey, or safety Don Carey. Because reporters are barred from practice once training camp ends, it's unclear who will get the nod at nickelback between Gore and Carey. But whoever the Lions run out there, they'll draw the unenviable task of bottling up Packers slot receiver Randall Cobb. Cobb is dangerous after the catch, so sure tackling is a must. The Lions can't just hit him. They have to like bring him down the first time they make contact with him. Make physical contact with him. The Lions will also mix in some press coverage, so it's imperative they don't let Speedster get a clean release in those situations. A bonus player to watch, kicker Nate Freeze. Until he stops missing, the rookie kicker is a story. I know some rookies are terrible, some rookies are good. Nate Freeze is terrible right now. After trying a series of veteran kickers this week, the Lions opted to stick with Freeze, but the leash is short. Another miss and one of those experienced legs could take his job. Still some bad blood between those two teams, the Lions and Packers. Josh Sitton, an offensive lineman for the Green Bay Packers last year, called the Lions' defensive line dirtbags. And defensive tackle C.J. Mosley for the Lions said he's pretty sure they're going to come in hard. The Lions gave them kind of a good whooping last year. They're going to want the Packers are going to want to redeem themselves, and the Lions can't let them do that. The Lions have lost 15 of its past 17 matchups with Green Bay and still hasn't won a game that Aaron Rodgers finished or started. Linebacker Stephen Tulloch has toiled through 5 of those losses. He's tried everything, including trash-talking Rodgers at the line of scrimmage about the discount double check and how weak he looks in his commercials. Rodgers is actually 9-1 against Detroit, with the lone loss coming in a 7-3 affair from 2010, when he didn't even play in the second half due to a concussion. First-year Lions head coach Jim Caldwell is new to the series, but is still familiar with it. He hails from Beloit, a small working-class hamlet nested deep in southern Wisconsin, and grew up watching the Packers. Yikes. Caldwell himself was a Bears fan, Chicago Bears. He loved Gale Sayers, but with only a few channels on TV, the shadow of Vince Lombardi, grandfather to his current offensive coordinator, was inescapable. Now here's a beat writer breakdown. It's very interesting. Listen up. Kyle Meinke writes on MLive.com that a Packers reporter explains why he's taking the Detroit Lions to win. MLive.com asked him, Green Bay is known for its offense for Aaron Rodgers, but didn't really seem to do much for the first 6 quarters of the season, and then they killed the Jets in the second half last week. What's going on here? Wes Huckiewicz is the beat writer's name, the reporter's name. The Packers fully dedicated their offense to a their offseason to a no-huddle offense that requires very little substitution. When it's clicking like it was on the 97-yard touchdown drive before halftime against the New York Jets last week, it's something to behold. When it isn't, it's an easy way to go 3 and out in the blink of an eye. The Packers have struggled to establish the run so far this season, so the offense has learned hard on Rodgers' arm. The Packers needed to keep an extra tight end back to assist right tackle Derek Sherrod, who has given up 3 sacks since Brian Bulaga went down with a sprained MCL in the second quarter against Seattle. That takes away another receiving threat in the middle of the field where Jermichael Finley previously thrived. If Bulaga plays, that should give the offense more freedom. Rodgers has been targeting Jordy Nelson at a record rate, which isn't like him. At his best, Rodgers usually likes to get anywhere from 5 to 6 receivers involved in a given week. They don't have the same weapons as previous years, so there'll be an adjustment early in the season. I expect they try to incorporate Randall Cobb more in the middle of the field against the Lions' depleted secondary. He has 3 touchdowns in two games, but is only averaging 8.8 yards per reception, 5 yards off his career average. MLive.com asked him, much has been made of the Packers incorporating a 4-3 defense front this year. What will we see differently from that unit? Hutkiewicz answers, the Packers call it their quad scheme. With rushing Julius Peppers and Mike Neal from the elephant end possessions, Clay Matthews typically lines up back with the team's inside linebackers. The Packers are significantly lighter on the defensive line, but more athletic. Veteran LaTroy Guion, Guion, Guion has stepped in for B.J. Raji with torn biceps, and sawed-off rusher Mike Daniels has been the defense's MVP so far and looks poised for a career year. It's been Daniels' interior pressure that's really helped the unit succeed. There have been growing pains in the first 2 games. There were times where defenders looked confused, subbing in and out of the 4-3 formation. Packers coach Mike McCarthy said he preferred to not match personnel against muddle huddle looks, so their take on the 4-3 could be beneficial if they can find a rhythm. On obvious rushing downs, defensive coordinator Don Campers still will deploy his traditional 3-4 as well. The Packers hope they found answers. After giving up 3 quick touchdowns in Sunday's 31-24 win, the defense held the Jets to only a field goal on their last 9 possessions. After re-signing Sam Shields and Neal in the offseason, the defense has plenty of weapons. They just need to put it together. Holy mackerel. MLive asked, how have the defensive adjustments affected the way Clay Matthews is used? Hutkiewicz answers, Matthews believes the change will allow him to show he's a complete linebacker and not strictly a rusher with 51 sacks to his career ledger. You'll likely notice Matthews dropping into coverage at greater frequency than in previous meetings when they're in the package. The 4-3 looks to capitalize on Matthews' versatility and athleticism since he's able to occasionally slide into the slot and cover. The Packers also haven't been shy about rushing him from a traditional linebacker post 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage on occasion. Matthews has been known for hot starts, had 6 sacks in the first 2 games in both the 2010-2012 seasons, but only has 1 thus far. In the 3 and 4 nickel defense, Matthews tends to line up again as a 3-4 outside linebacker and can be sent from anywhere in their dime or psycho sub package. MLive.com asks, running back Eddie Lacy hasn't done much this year, and the Lions are pretty good against the run. What's going on here? Lacy at Huckywoods answers, Lacy has 25 carries for 77 yards this year. He was a rookie last year and hasn't rushed for more than 15 on a single carry. He suffered a concussion in the second half against Seattle, but the 10-day layoff until last Sunday's game again allowed him to get back on the field in time. He's broken 7 tackles in the first 2 games, but hasn't really had much room to run. They faced 2 difficult opponents in Seattle and New York, the Giants, which played most of the game in a base personnel with an extra defender in the box. New York. I gotta do a better job pronouncing New York. New York. The Packers aren't happy with how they're running the ball, but have admitted it's probably open up one-on-one opportunities in the passing game for Nelson, who entered Week 3 with an NFL best 292 receiving yards. The Packers have worked a lot on Lacy's pass catching. On series when they are operating in no huddle, they like to keep him on the field the entire time, with James Starks and DeJuan Harris also taking an occasional series. The Packers have been without 2 preferred starting offensive linemen, center J.C. Treader with a knee injury and Balaga, but they still expect to run the ball better than they have. The Packers are 9-0 against the Lions when Rodgers finishes the game. That streak continues if Huckywoods answers, they can keep the pocket clean for Rodgers, who's looking to dice up Detroit's secondary. He's been sacked 7 times in the first 2 weeks. 2 of those likely have been a result of Rodgers holding onto the ball too long, with 3 others stemming from Sherrod being beat on the right side. Matt Flynn was sacked 7 times at Ford Field last year. The Lions didn't respect the Packers' passing offense and often sold out. Rodgers can get the offense rolling through the air. It'll open up the playbook for McCarthy. They'll need left tackle David Bakhtiari to play better too. He's really struggled against Ziggy Ansah in November's blowout. Defensively, Calvin Johnson is averaging 8 catches and more than 150 yards in his last 4 meetings with Green Bay. It's nearly impossible to stop him, but they can't allow him to venture north of that average. Huckywoods predicts the Lions to win 34-31. He says both the Lions offense and Packers defense need to start fast. The Packers allowed 57 points and 610 total yards in the first 6 quarters before finally slowing down New York in the final 30 minutes last week. New York. Rodgers has a 111 lifetime quarterback rating against Detroit. However, I could see a scenario in which he plays well and the Packers still lose. I think the game will come down to whether the Packers secondary can turn Matthew Stafford over once or twice. Maybe it's just the Lions are due against Rodgers, but I have them penciled in to cover the modest 1-point line. You can follow Wes Huckywoods on Twitter at WesHod, WESHOD. Now let's go over the Tigers. Tigers open up a series finale against the Kansas City Royals at Kauffman Stadium. Rick Porcello and Jeremy Guthrie. Like I mentioned, Rick Porcello has a better record and better ERA than Jeremy Guthrie, and the Tigers have owned Jeremy Guthrie, and Guthrie hasn't been as good as the Royals have expected him to be. And there's a column written by Chris Ayotte that Joakim Soria deserves a shot at pitching in high-pressure situations for the Tigers. He says Soria deserves a shot he has for a while.